I wrote a book called Explanations and Corrections in the Gospel of Luke. And in this video, I'm going to begin discussing a chapter called The Meaning of the Times of the Gentiles. And the reason I'll cover this chapter now is I already covered a lot of what Luke wrote in chapter 21, verses 20 through 24. In those chapters, he called the abomination of desolation the armies, encamped armies, and he spoke of them as being encamped around Jerusalem like for a siege, and he also used the expression that Jerusalem shall be trodden down by the Gentiles till the times of the nations be fulfilled. And I claim that the abomination of desolation is not an idol, that it's an abominable beast, not like a pig, but a Gentile, because the Gentiles were abominable. And I've had another episode that covered that. So all of these things are related, and they come from Daniel chapter 7. And I'm saying in this chapter that the beast would trample Jerusalem, because that's what beasts do. They trample, at least boars do, and this beast was probably worse than a boar. And he would do it till the times of the nations be fulfilled. And I'm claiming that those words reflect the words until a time and times and half a time in Daniel 7:25. But the thing is that Daniel 7:25 actually says that a horn of the beast, which symbolizes a king, would do that. And so to some people it might seem like to be an objection that I say that the beast trampled the Jerusalem for a time and times and half a time, when the Bible literally says a horn did it or a king did it. And incidentally, it's interesting that Luke is bringing up these complicated words from Daniel, because if he had simply, in this case, explained the words in Matthew and Mark, the words that Mark uses that seem to relate to this passage, it says, "For the sake of the elect which he hath chosen, he hath shortened the days." Well, that's a good way of simplifying the meaning of a time and times and half a time. That's simpler than saying till the times of the nation are fulfilled. But that's what we have. So Luke there must have been widespread use of some gospel or texts that use the original words of Daniel until a time and times and half a time. And Jesus might have used those words himself in his eschatological discourse, or so-called last day speech, the Olivet Discourse on the Mount of Olives. So I'll start reading from the chapter. The expression time and times and half a time in Daniel couldn't possibly be literal, for reasons that I will explain in this chapter. To protect first century readers from misinterpreting the phrase, Luke converted the expression to its meaning, the times of the Gentiles. And I'll skip this paragraph till another episode to save time. I'll also skip this paragraph for the same reason. Luke substituted the phrase the times of the Gentiles for the mysterious phrase in Daniel 7:25. Luke 21:24, American Standard Version, says, "Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times or kairoi of the Gentiles be fulfilled." And incidentally, I only know a little Greek, and I checked pronunciation online, but they use modern Greek speakers for the pronunciation. So I kind of combine ideas from them with the idea that in the first century the words were pronounced how they're spelled. By the times of the Gentiles, Luke was referring to the time and times and half a time in Daniel 7:25. Kairu, kai kairon, kai hemisu kairu, which Charles Thompson translated a time and times and the half of a time in his Septuagint. The reason for suspecting that the phrase is a reference to Daniel is the presence of other allusions to Daniel in the surrounding verses. One of those allusions that Luke already made is to Daniel 7:23, which reads in the Douay, and thus he said, "The fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be greater than all the kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces." I claimed earlier in this book that the fourth beast is the abomination of desolation, that is, it is a Gentile army that desolates. And Luke attributed the siege and destruction of Jerusalem to that beast or abomination in Luke 21:20, which speaks of the fourth beast that would tread down the whole earth, calling it an army. Because he was familiar with biblical metonymy, Luke didn't see much of a distinction between a king and his army and his kingdom. So what was said of the conspicuous horn of the fourth beast was also said of the beast in Daniel 7:21 and 25. Verse 21, "I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them." Verse 25, "And he shall speak words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and he shall think to change the times and the law, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and half a time." So again, the primary purpose of this episode is that technically Daniel 7 says that a horn, who was defined to be a king, wore out the saints of God for a time and times and half a time. But what I'm saying is the beast that the horn was part of trampled the holy ones of Jerusalem for a time and times and half a time. The time and times and half a time were given to the horn, not to the beast. The horn is a king, according to verse 24. The beast can be interpreted either as a kingdom or as its army, or even as the king and leader of its army. The horn is said to wear out the saints. I claim that this is the same as what the beast in chapter 7 does to the saints, but in different words. Notice that Luke says that Jerusalem would be trodden by the Gentiles. Luke is literally saying that Jerusalem would be trodden by people. But I think he intended for it to be subouted or understood by his readers that Jerusalem would be trodden by the four legs of the terrible beast in Daniel 7. Another passage Luke was probably thinking about, and which I discuss elsewhere, is Daniel 9:27, which reads in the Douay, "And he shall confirm the covenant with many in 1 week, and in the half of the week the victim and the sacrifice shall fail, and there shall be in the temple the abomination of desolation, and the desolation shall continue even to the consummation and to the end." Although phrased differently, the period of time that the desolation was to continue in Daniel 9:27 was the same figurative time and times and half a time given to the horn in Daniel 7. Also see the preceding verse, Daniel 9:26, where the same event, the appointed desolation, is mentioned. The period of desolation is left undefined in both Daniel 9:26 and 27, and I claim that a time and times and half a time is an undefined period of time. And incidentally, I'll cover later in the book, it turns out that John Calvin and some of his followers also thought that a time and times and half a time were an undefined period of time that's just known within the knowledge of God, known by God. So I keep making assertions about metonymy included in this chapter, so I will add some ideas here about the different meanings of the word kingdom in Daniel and the subject of metonymy. The word kingdom in Daniel can mean the rulership given to one man. Daniel 2:37 says, "Thou, O king, art king of kings, unto whom the God of heaven hath given the kingdom, the power, and the strength, and the glory." His rulership temporarily departed from Nebuchadnezzar when he went crazy. And of course the realm that he ruled didn't depart. Daniel 4:31. While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven, saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. The geographical area didn't depart, the world power didn't depart, but his rulership did. The word kingdom in Daniel can mean the territory ruled. Thus Daniel 5:11 speaks of a man in a kingdom. There is a man in thy kingdom, in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. A person can be in a place. In Esther 2:3, a kingdom is made up of provinces. In Joshua 13:30 through 31, the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, was part of a border. A border is geographical, not abstract, as when kingdom means rulership or dynasty. The word kingdom can mean the military power of a country ruled by a king. Rulerships and geographical areas don't break in pieces and consume kingdoms, and they don't tread the earth. They use their armies to do that. Yet Daniel 2:44 says, And in the days of those kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, nor shall the sovereignty thereof be left to another people. But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. And Daniel 7:23 says, Thus he said, The fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all the kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. When the word kingdom is used in this sense, the kingdom does something that a general or army does. So the nouns for a kingdom, its general, and its army can be substituted for each other. 2 Samuel 10:18 says that Israel defeated the Syrians, and then says that King David did it, even though every ancient reader knew that the army of the kingdom of Israel actually did the fighting. In 1 Samuel 13:1 through 4, it is said that Saul and Jonathan smote the garrison of the Philistines, but it is not possible that those two men smote so many Philistines. Saul's 2,000 men and Jonathan's 1,000 men must have done most of the smiting. Any early reader of the passage would have immediately known that Saul the king and Jonathan the military commander were put for their armies. And the passage could have said that the kingdom of Israel had smitten the Philistines. See also 1 Samuel 15:7 through 8, where it is said that Saul smote the Amalekites. The name of a general or king is again put for his army. And this passage also could have said that the kingdom of Israel had smitten the Amalekites. So the primary purpose of this episode is just to say that I'm saying that the abomination of desolation is the beast, and the beast trampled Jerusalem, and I'm saying it did it for a time and times and half a time. Although, if you want to be technical, Daniel chapter 7 says that the horn of the beast, which is defined as a king, had control over Jerusalem for a time and times and half a time. So I'll make some other episodes to complete this subject and this chapter.